Welcome to Start Healing with YFAC, the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center podcast. YFAC provides any and all types of support for victims of interpersonal crime in Yavapai County.
Welcome to another episode of Start Healing with YFAC. This is Kim, and I'm here with Missy, who's the Executive Director. How are you, Kim? Missy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Good.
So, why don't you tell me a little bit about YFAC?
Absolutely. So YFAC, Yavapai Family Advocacy Center is the name, was started 25 years ago. The process started in, I think, 98, and in 99, advocacy centers started to pop up around the country.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because there'd been some national studies from the health department and other organizations, children's psychological organizations, that realized that when a child was a victim of a crime, that once that crime was reported, the system around the kids, so perhaps the medical system, the prosecution system, the law enforcement system, they all kind of needed their pieces to do their parts in the case, right? The child welfare system. But it was really draining on children and their family, and they almost became re-victimized through the process over and over, telling the story multiple times, having to go sit in a sterile waiting room at a hospital, having to go sit in a lobby at a police department, all these kinds of things. And so a lot of prosecutions didn't get to go to full fruition because of that. People dropped out. People didn't like what was happening to their children, didn't like what was happening to them. It would be just too much on all of them, right?
Too much of a stress,
and it's right after a trauma. And so they just couldn't take it. And so there was motivation on the legal part and on the child welfare and health part to find out a better way to do it. So advocacy centers started to pop up as a one-stop shop, a location where it would be a community-based organization, very soft, very, very family-centered and neutral in the way it's laid out, in the way it's decorated, in the way it's welcoming, right? And
so it's just a comfortable environment.
Very comfortable and very safe. And all the organizations come there. So once a crime is reported on a child, the child is brought there.
Okay.
And then all of these organizations are going to come there to work with that child. If a medical exam needs to happen to collect DNA evidence or physical evidence, photos, those kinds of things, they're going to come there and do it on site there. If an interview needs to happen to gather the information from them about the details of the assault or the multiple assaults, it's going to happen there. And while that's happening there, there's going to be victim advocates on site that are assigned to the family to help them. There's going to be therapists available who can provide trauma therapy and work with the family and the child around how this happened, how to process what happened and how to work beyond it. And so the advocacy centers had been coming up, like I said, around the nation for about 15 or 20 years at that point. And so Yavapai County, all of the municipality police department agency heads and the head prosecutor at the time called on Becky Ruffner, who at the time had just started Prevent Child Abuse Arizona.
Correct.
And they called on her to come in and say, so you're our child welfare expert. Like, what do we do? How do we look at getting one of these started here? How do we work it? So they spent about a year and a half and they went to other states and looked at organizations. At the time we didn't have any, or we had one in Arizona. And so they started to look around and say, okay, yes, we definitely need it, right? We recognize we need it. How do we start it? How is that best to happen? And then there's different models. So there's what's called a child advocacy center. In our life, we call them a CAC. And then there's an adult advocacy center because we recognized, of course, if this is the best way to handle child victims of crime, we should do it for adults. And then a lot of communities like ours that are smaller started to pop up with what's called a family advocacy center. So we give services to both children and adults. And we decided very early on that's what we wanted here, was a family advocacy center. And so everybody at that time, each municipality came together and made a commitment to make it happen. And Prevent Child Abuse Arizona stepped in and said, well, we're a nonprofit already. We'll start it as a program under us and we'll run it. It'll be a nonprofit because they're typically nonprofit organizations, and we'll run it under us. And so that's the way it started. And the doors,
at the time, that was a great idea.
It was amazing, right? And the doors opened in October of 2000.
Oh.
So
it's
back
still
then,
kind of a baby.
Yeah. So back then, I think that first year, the numbers, I'm trying to remember, I haven't looked at the old stuff in a long time. Probably, I think it was under 100, probably around, I think it was somewhere in the 50s. 50 some victims came through the center that year to get services.
Wow.
In 2024, over 1,300 people came through our doors to get services. So
wow.
Obviously it's grown and there's a huge need.
There's a need. Well, I do want to kind of back up a little bit. You were talking about how the Advocacy Center is a safe place for people to go, and a secure place. So kind of tell me a little bit about how that's secured. I mean, you have somebody, the victim of a crime, they're coming to see you. What is that process? What does that look like?
So people can come to us two different ways. If you're an adult and you want support, whether the crimes happened yesterday or you're in a domestic violence relationship that's ongoing now and you just want to come in and talk to somebody about what support looks like and help, what would it look like if I left, you can do that. If there's been an actual crime and it's reported to the police are typically the ones to call us. They initiate our involvement right away. And we are the center that does all forensic interviews for all of Yavapai County law enforcement agencies. And we do all of the forensic medical exams for all of the local law enforcement agencies. So for instance, many people, if they are victim of sexual assault or a strangulation, they say, I need to go to the hospital and report it. So they go to the hospital and they report it. Well, they're going to do that. And what's going to happen is they'll get medically stabilized, make sure they can leave without anything being life-threatening. And then we're going to get the call and they're going to have to get transferred over to us to have the actual exam done that collects the evidence.
Okay.
So those don't happen at hospitals. You have to have specialized cameras, some other equipment. And more importantly, the nurses that do those exams are all they have full-time jobs as medical professionals, as nurses, but they have additional training to collect evidence and in a specific way that stands up in a case in a court of law. And so you have to have that specialized training in order to be able to do those exams and then be able to go to court and testify as an expert on that medical exam that you collect the evidence on. So an emergency room nurse doesn't have that training, so they can't do those exams.
So if the nurses have that kind of training, what kind of training do you give to the law enforcement to recognize? And obviously they're going to have some sort of a compassion for something like that. What kind of training do they have to go through?
Each agency is different. They all kind of seek out their own, what we call trauma-informed training for anybody that works with victims of crime. My organization partners with all of our law enforcement agencies. We do a lot of cross training. We get trained on their processes because we're heavily involved in the beginning of the investigation, but we're not the investigators. We don't step on toes. We simply are.
You have to have base knowledge of what they do.
We know what they're doing because we need to know when it's not our part. That's not my lane, right? Stay out of my lane. But then they need to know what trauma-informed care looks like. So they're having those initial conversations with victims in ways that are more supportive and softer, so that somebody isn't fearful of the process of reporting and isn't fearful of, there's enough fear already about getting an exam of that type, right?
Right.
You don't need this added kind of pressure and anxiety put on you by somebody interrogating you. Right. So you need it to be they need to lead the way. You need to give them the information, say, this is what we'd like to do. We offer these type of exams to collect this evidence. It has to be done within a certain time frame or it's gone.
So it's a different way of talking to them as opposed to dictating what's going to happen. It's having a conversation and allowing them to direct you.
Yes. It's giving them the information. Very different. And it's hard, right? Because
that's a skill.
Because you walk in one room and you're in full interrogation mode because you're with the suspect and the bad guy. And then you have to flip your hat around and 30 seconds later change the complete way you're talking to somebody who now's the victim, and you can't speak to them in the same way. So they do a lot of training. Our agencies here are amazing agencies, and they do a lot of training around that. And, and like I said, we cross-train, and we have a lot of meetings. We have meetings every other week as a group in our county. It's called the multidisciplinary team. And we're just constantly talking and reminding and giving examples of how it worked and how it didn't work to really just all be on the same page when we're talking to these people.
So you guys are constantly learning and adapting to obviously what's changing in the world.
Exactly.
And this seems like it's growing. This topic seems like it's growing just based off of your numbers.
Quite a bit. Yeah.
So I guess what if you were to stereotype, who comes through your door?
There isn't one type of client. I mean, of course, there are abuse in families. These kind of interpersonal kind of crimes are really secretive and private and shameful and embarrassing. And that keeps people from seeking help, right? And so when you don't seek help, you keep it internalized, you keep it behind your own closed doors. And what that does is it kind of causes it to perpetuate in your family generation through generation through generation. So we see a lot of that, right? Some families maybe that are more affluential and have more money kind of are able to hide a little bit better. They may not have you knocking on their door as much, but
so it doesn't have any boundaries. It can
we
be
have,
your
we have
next door
victims
neighbor.
from every walk of life come through our door, every walk of life. And we have victims, every age group. We have infants that are victims, and we've had victims come through our doors that are in their 90s and ask for help. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, just every kind of spectrum you can imagine.
So you're approaching your 25th year. How long have you been with YFAC?
I have been the director at YFAC now a little over 9 years.
Wow. So I know you have kind of a big secret that you're wanting to get out. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your 25 years?
We do. We're super excited. So over the last couple of years, we have been, and if you go back to Becky Ruffner and Kathy McLaughlin, who are both wonderful, amazing women and mentors of mine still, they'll tell you that when this started in 2000, that the intention was for Prevent Child Abuse Arizona to help start YFAC and for it to eventually branch out on its own and be its own standalone 501c3. And because of comfort levels and different things, we've just stuck together and we work so closely, and our work crosses paths in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. But we've kind of evolved and grown to the place where although we love each other and we work really closely, that's not fitting either of us anymore. So last year, early last year, maybe the end of the year before, 23, we started conversations around, is it time to separate? And that decision was made the beginning of last year. And so now we've been working together. Claire Luge is the executive director of Prevent Child Abuse now. And her and I have gone through so many steps and worked really closely. We've hired a consultant agency to kind of help us develop and decide what's the best way for YFAC to move on to its own away from PCA. Prevent Child Abuse Arizona is a wonderful organization, but it's a statewide organization. All of their programs, they've got, I think, 13 or 15 other programs that are all statewide organizations. And what they do is train people who work with families to provide intervention in families so the abuse never occurs to begin with. And then they work at the legislative level and the government level to kind of maybe to hopefully interject change in our laws and in our systems to add more preventative measures so that families are getting more supports upstream.
Okay.
And that families that are at high risk and that there's more intervention provided upstream so we can prevent the abuse from happening to begin with. That is very different than what we do.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
so number one, we're a county specific organization.
Correct.
We only serve Yavapai County, and that's the only area we've ever served. And number two, we are an intervention agency. So we work directly with the victims. We're not training people that work with them. We work directly with the victims of the crime and the families. And we're giving direct boots on the ground service. And that's a very different kind of world than they live in.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided capacity wise, my organization has always been independent, run on its own. We bring in our own funding. It's kind of held separately, and PCA does that. But the background, the infrastructure, so say HR,
Mm-hmm.
Finance, that kind of thing, those things were incorporated in both. So they ran that for both. And that team doesn't have the capacity to handle both anymore. We have to split, and it's good. We are both so excited for it. PCA has huge potential and intentions to grow at the state level, and YFAC has huge intentions and potential to grow at the county level in what we do. And basically, for about 4 or 5 years, we were making decisions that, well, we don't have the capacity to expand over to the Verde and put a second center in the Verde because we don't have the background staff to help support that much larger of a budget, those many more grants, all that kind of stuff. So that's changing. YFAC has now gotten our own 501c3 status from the federal government. We're recognized as our own, and we've started to seek funding out on our own. But because we had some funding that was on a federal funding that was coming in and other funding that was coming in that was maybe on a 2 to 5 year cycle, we can't make our official split complete until September 30th of this year. That's when our last combined grant will run out. The grant that was awarded to PCA to use for us.
Got it.
Right. To be for my program, but it's under
kind of
their,
like that.
Yeah. So we have to finalize that. And in the meantime, that same funding source we are reapplying for, but under our own 501c3 number as our own. So we are super excited because, October is going to be our 25-year anniversary, and October is also going to be our first month of our independence. Our own board of directors
scared
established.
About this? Like, what is the
scary
of course,
stuff? What is
the scary stuff here for you?
A little bit of it's scary, but I have to tell you, I've got the best people giving me guidance and support here. I mean, I come from a background of 15 years working for the government. I guess 28 years. I was a school teacher for 15 years, and I worked at the state for Department of Child Safety for 13 years. So 28 years I was a government employee and never knew anything about the nonprofit world until I got a call from Becky and said, "Hey, your name keeps popping up and our director is moving and retiring. We want to talk to you." And of course that director, I knew her really well. She called me and I'm like, "Okay, I'll talk to you." And I jumped into the nonprofit world. So over 9 years, I've learned a lot about it and I love it. But of course it's scary kind of to go out on my own, but we're just building the best team around it. Claire, the director of PCA, is just a wealth of information and knowledge, and she and I work really closely together. And I'm not afraid to ask anybody for help, right? I know a lot of leaders
100%.
around the state.
That's why I like you so much.
I know so many nonprofit leaders in our community and around the state that asking for guidance and information and ideas and suggestions is just really helps so much. And
so it kind of sounds like with you making this big step, you need a lot of support from the community.
Absolutely, we do.
So how can the community help you with this? Because it is a big step.
It's a huge step.
You're losing funding. You have to now go after it yourself because you don't have that help at the higher level. So how can people of Yavapai County come and help you?
Yavapai County can. Of course, we love donations, but we are so excited because we get to now start marketing to Yavapai County as and always I will tell you impeccably. So, our finance team has been amazing that when you donate to YFAC, the dollars have always stayed with YFAC local, but it's still hard to donate to a statewide organization and say, I want my dollars to stay local.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to wrap your head around that. Well, I'm giving it, when I look at PCA's website, they do all these things everywhere in the state. And so it's hard to really kind of put your 100% faith in the fact that, is it really going to stay just in Yavapai County for Yavapai County things? Well, we get to start now telling people that, yes, 100%. Every dollar you give to YFAC, every ounce of donation, support, anything you do, volunteer work is going to stay in county. And I know, there's some statewide organizations I donate to, but to me, I want to improve my community, and I want what I do to improve my community, which is then going to have a ripple effect, right? And so,
now, can
it's
you
important.
do tax credit?
We're going to work at applying and getting our tax credit status after October 1st. So I don't know that we'll have it in place. We actually just talked with them. There's other advocacy centers around our state. There's 25 total, and some of them do qualify as
tax
credit beneficiaries.
Yes.
So we totally will qualify. We know we will. So we're applying, but we're kind of,
you have to wait till you're separate.
Doing the paperwork, and we want to wait till we're separate 100%,
mm-hmm.
and then get that in place. So I'm assuming we won't have it in place for 25's tax year ending, but for 26 we will. And that's huge. That is huge.
That would be huge.
So
any of the people out there looking for that tax credit for their 2026,
and we all have places our heart goes to.
Absolutely.
And your heart might go to an animal organization, might go to an organization that helps elders, an organization that helps foster kids. And you and I were both on the board of directors for the CASA Foundation. So we know that really well. That's dear to our hearts. But, if you care about any any issues around child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, elder abuse, your heartstrings might tug you in the direction of YFAC.
Right.
And wanting to donate to YFAC to help kind of intervene and stop that cycle.
Give them a safe place to land.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're excited. So we're planning, don't have dates yet. Don't know exactly when, but we're planning for sometime mid-October, early October, when we can still be outside late afternoon, because we want to do something on our site, and we want to give tours and show people our beautiful center, and have a huge, big, canopy and catered affair, and just a big celebration. Introduce our new board of directors that we're recruiting.
So like a giant open house.
Yes. and celebrate 25 years of supporting and serving this community. And
well, keep us posted on that, and we'll help you get that word out.
Awesome. Very exciting.
So is there anything else that you have kind of
lurking? No, not right now.
Around?
I'd love to say that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Child Abuse Awareness Month. So there's some events coming up around that. There'll be one at Yavapai College the first Wednesday in April. It's a early evening 5 to 7 event, just to kind of recognize that sexual assaults, how do we support it? Just that it happens in our community, but there's going to be some really great speakers and just information. We're getting information on who you can go to and how you can get help, or how you can provide help to a loved one or somebody that you know. And then there's
so that would actually be more informational to those who maybe know of somebody,
right?
And learn those skills of being able to talk to them.
Right. And we always have just community members show up to these events. They just I want to know more. And they come in, and you'll find, I think we're going to have 12 to 15 community organizations there that support these people that have gone through this. And you'll learn how you can volunteer with each of them independently, how you can support them, how you can become more involved in the solution and the cycle of support, versus being what we call a bystander with blinders on, right? Somebody who wants to say it never happens.
So how do people get a hold of you?
You can call us at the Advocacy Center, 928-775-0669. People can email me directly. My name is my email is my first name, Missy, at YFAC.org. I love questions. I love giving tours. I love talking to people. I'm passionate about what I do, and I have the most amazing team. So I just love talking to people.
If nobody out there knows Missy, you really do want to come talk to her. She is an amazing individual.
Likewise.
Yeah. Thank you. So anything else? Do you have an upcoming gala? When is your annual gala?
We normally have our annual gala in September, October. And we were considering doing both, but because we want to make our celebration so large, we're kind of thinking about changing it and trying to get sponsors for our gala, for our celebration event.
Okay. Bringing
in sponsors and having a little bit of a kind of a gala effect to feel or vibe to it. And we're not going to advertise it as a fundraiser, but certainly if people come and see our center and are compelled to make a donation to our center, and we may have some silent auction items there. Okay. We would love to have them.
So if you need some sponsors,
participate.
If somebody feels like they need to sponsor this event, by all means.
We will be actively looking for sponsors for this event.
So those of us that are looking forward to your gala, we're actually looking forward to an open house now.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Because I love coming to your gala.
I know. And this is going to be just as fun. And it's going to be a celebration.
Good.
Just a huge, wonderful celebration.
Wonderful. So is there anything else you need or want to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, I think we're good for today.
Alrighty. Well, congratulations on your separation. And I know it's a good thing for you guys. I know you've worked with the Ruffners, forever.
Yes, absolutely.
And that is a bittersweet, but I'm pretty sure she has your heart and full support. And
she is one of the people that is helping me and guiding me. And
that's wonderful.
Yes, and likewise her successor, Claire. So this is a I couldn't imagine
good separation.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. It's a mutual decision that is so exciting for all of us that we're, they're as excited for YFAC's growth.
Yes.
As I am.
Yes.
So it's perfect.
Alrighty. Well, that's been another episode of Start Healing with YFAC. Thank you, Missy.
Thanks. Thank you for tuning in to Start Healing with YFAC, the Yavapai Family Advocacy Center podcast. If you or someone you know needs assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us online at yfac.org or call us at 928-775-0669. Start Healing with YFAC is proud to be on Cast 11, Prescott's podcast network. Find us wherever you stream your podcasts.